Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this Executive Insights by Shipping and Freight Resource. The month of August is commemorated as Women's Month in South Africa every year in tribute to more than 20,000 women who marched to the Union buildings on the 9th of August 1956 to petition against the past laws of the country at that time. And this is the 66th year of this event, and the theme this year is Women's Socio-Economic Rights and Empowerment, Building Back Better for Women's Resilience, which is sort of a call to action for everyone to take steps in responding to some of the persistent challenges affecting the lives of women and girls. And one of the beacons in this fight for the empowerment of girls and women, especially in terms of education, is Professor Mamokgethi Phakeng, Vice Chancellor of University of Cape Town. Today, I have the privilege of featuring Professor Phakeng in this Executive Insights as an inspiration to many students in South Africa and around the world. Good afternoon, Professor, and thank you for your time today.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for inviting me.
Well, Vice Chancellor, Deputy Mother, Fab Academic, leader of the Pastoreum Squad, educator, and more. that is your description. So, what is your motivation behind the so many roles that you play in society, and how do you juggle all these roles?
You know, it feels like many roles, but at the center of it, it's the same thing. It's all about education, youth development, community development. For me, all of that. So it doesn't feel like I'm playing many roles, because they are all centered around my passion for education. And I'm deliberately saying my passion because I do that with great enthusiasm, as passions go, you know. And so it's always a joy to do education, and it comes from a place of experience that I wouldn't be here without education. I was rescued by education. And so it's like, it's the same thing. Of course, except executive management, being vice chancellor, it's in an education institution, but the work of being vice chancellor is not just education, is, you know, human resource development, management of people, resources, finances, and so on and so forth. So it's doable. 24 hours is good enough.
And one of the jobs is also to receive students at the airport.
That's the fun. You know, it's not written in the job description, but in every job, you've got to insert the fun, because otherwise it becomes too heavy and too, you know, too dreadful to do. So I make sure that I inject the things that I enjoy, the things that give me energy, the things that invigorate me. And young people do invigorate me. They you know, they give me energy. And of course, as much as their exuberance can be, you know, can sometimes go beyond what's expected, I appreciate it, because without that, there'll be things that I don't think about. So fetching them from the airport and giving them Kit Kats, surprise Kit Kats at the library during exam time, or on a cold winter evening, you know, it's something that I do because I think about, what would I have liked that many years ago, on a cold winter night studying in the library, or even if it's not so cold, but it's like 10:30 and I'm studying in the library and many people have gone home and there's a few of us in the, what would I have liked to do? And I thought, wow, they can just have a vice chancellor popping up, you know, just to encourage them and give them some encouragement to take a break with Kit Kat.
Good. I'm glad that you brought up the topic of studying at 10:30 and stuff. How far have women in South Africa come since the time of your first school, learning under the trees? Are we where we need to be as a country?
We're not. We are far away, in my view. I mean, and I think in as much as sometimes there's a tendency to congratulate ourselves, we have only just started scratching the surface. And I'm saying that because there's still a perception that gender equality, particularly in the workplace, and in many other spaces, is just about giving access. So you hire more women, it seems like tick, it's done. Get more women in leadership positions, tick, it's done. And in my view, access is not equity. Access is just one level of equity. We need to go to the next level of equity, which is participation, and the next level, which is success. If we don't do that, then we will not see success, because, and even if you see women in the leadership, because we can end up with the situation that you have women in the space, but nothing changes. Nothing changes in terms of how women are treated in the workplace, in schools, in different spaces, or even in sports. I mean, you know, just that. I mean, just in South Africa, I mean, women's soccer players, our women's soccer team is treated totally different from our national team, men national team. And our women national soccer team has just won the Africa Cup.
And they were phenomenal.
Phenomenal, you know. And the men's soccer team haven't, but they still, and there is nothing. And of course, they're supposed to be excited with some benefits, small benefits that they're given now once off for the win. But I say to people, I'm not satisfied, because that's not good enough. That's like, well done for winning this cup. We don't want well done for winning this cup. We want equal treatment with the men. Then I will say, and that's like in public, because these are national soccer teams, they are in public. So it's the one way for the business sector, for government to show gender equality. And that's, if we can't show it there, there's no way you're going to see it in the boardroom.
True. And it also requires constant development of these initiatives, not just, as you said, not just a once-off appreciation. And when you took over positions of leadership at UCT, anyway, even before, did you have a plan in place as to what you wanted to achieve, and what have been some of the challenges in achieving those specific objectives for you?
You know, top of mind for me was, of course, transformation and excellence. I mean, I've always been committed to excellence. But my understanding and my view is that in a context such as ours, if you drive excellence without transformation, it will do damage. And so I had to come with a vision that brings the two together, and a convincing vision for the university and the academic sector to actually understand that the two are not in contrast, they are not in opposition, they work together. And if we do them this way, excellence and transformation, we can produce sustainability. And this is what I mean when I say, if we just pursue excellence in and of itself, can do damage. Excellence is great and we must pursue it. But excellence is complex, you know. Excellence, as much as it's good, it can also marginalize others. It can silence people. It can exclude others if it's not done consciously. And the reason why is like that. One of the reasons is that excellence is enabled. It doesn't happen on its own. You enable it. And because we come from an apartheid past, excellence in our history was enabled in a way that it advantages a particular race and gender. And that's why even today, when you call excellence, often you get white men in front. And of course, since 94, you get white men, you get black men, you get white women, and then you get the black women at the end of what I call the colonial procession, you know. And then it makes it look like women are lazy, they don't work hard enough. That's not it. It's because we have enabled it that way. And so women were generally regarded as minors during apartheid. And when the country, we got our democracy, the struggle against racism and you know, employment equity, whatever, advantaged first Black men. I mean, patriarchy works together, right? So Black men went in the front, and then obviously white women came next because, you know, they've got the networks in the space of white men. Black women come at the back. So we haven't. So in a way, we as I said, we have to, as a leading university on the African continent, we have to enable excellence in all its diversity. And the university didn't have a history of having targeted programs for previously marginalized people. Because, you know, as you can imagine, a top university, the narrative was, this is a meritocracy.
Sure.
You swim or you sink.
Yeah.
And then I said, but it doesn't work that way. You know, we are not starting from the same point. So we've got to enable other people. So we've got to find programs that can enable emerging researchers who are Black on their own without competing with others. As much as we want emerging researchers of all the other races and foreign nationals supported, but we don't want this group to be competing with this group. You give a same amount of money to support it, but it must be separate so that this money can, all of it, be used for this. And then we've got to also think about women. And the university had no history of having women programs. And the first program that I launched was For Women by Women, Advancing Women for Women by Women. And that was the program that focuses on, we actually launched it on the 9th of August in 2018, after I took office. And the idea there was to support scholarship where women, in areas where women are in short supply. And then the second area was to support scholarship and research in areas that focus on women issues. So what are those areas that focus on women issues? We want to support scholarship there, and also focus on women in short supply, areas where women are in short supply. And then the third area was to support people who identify as women or who present as women, and scholarship in that area. Because the scholarship in South Africa, we don't have a growing scholarship, for example, in queer studies. And I wanted us to develop that. And the idea was that we've got to get these scholars, only women can access the funds to do work in these areas. And every year in August, we'll come back and report to the university community as to how the work is going. They will get money to do research. They'll get money to get students and postdocs. But all of that, the people they employ, the students they supervise, must all be women or presenting as women, trans women. For us, trans women are women, all of that.
I saw your tweet on that as well.
Yeah. But, you know, so we did that. And every year we've been doing that kind of reporting back. And we're seeing some of the students who they started supporting actually are now employed in the departments, some of which were completely white. They've got now young Black women in junior level positions who are completing their PhDs. They are mentored by the women in the department. And that's the growth that you want to see. You want to see that change in some of the areas were dominated by men. Archaeology is dominated by men. And we've got the few women, the 3 women who are there working together to bring a new cohort of women in there. And we can see the change. But that's something that I wanted to see in terms of equity. But also in terms of sustaining the excellence of the university. I thought, it's good to take over a university. At that time, we were leading in one world university ranking. And I thought, who are the people who are keeping us in these rankings? One day they're going to retire. What should we do? And so I also set up the UCT 2030 Future Leaders Program. Young people who are selected solely on merit. We've got a rating system in South Africa, and young people who are emerging superstars are rated P, and the majority of them are at UCT. And we take them, we give them tailor-made support to fast-track their growth and make sure that they become the leading scholars that they're destined to be, but also that they train more leading scholars like them, and also as a way to retain them, because these are superstars. If we don't do that, they're going to go overseas. That's where they studied anyway.
True.
And so those are the things, and that has helped. As I'm talking to you now, we're leading in all the 5 major world university rankings. When we led only in one, and we're seeing women emerging. By the way, that young group of young people below 40 that we selected on merit, the majority of them are women. It wasn't, we didn't say we're selecting on women. Of course, we didn't use nationality or race. We didn't use any demographic selection. We just said they've got to be rated, and that's a peer review, international peer review, and they are or different nationalities, different races, different genders, but mainly women. I mean, I think that's fantastic. And it tells you, perhaps in history, women could have advanced if we had deliberately or intentionally supported them.
True, very true. And is that part of the objectives that you had in mind when you launched your own scholarship, Mamokgethi Phakeng Scholarship? How many students do you think you will be able to assist with that?
I mean, so far we've got about 20 already that I think in the pipeline. Some of them have completed, have graduated, but every year we give about 5.
Okay.
And so we've got a lot of students who go through, and that was what I had in mind. But in that program, it's supporting women postgraduate students who are registered at UCT. And the idea of that also was to say, I mean, most young women, at a time when they have to do postgraduate studies, it's at a time when they have to start a family, whatever, and then there are no scholarships that focus on them, and they struggle, and sometimes they go, I won't take postgrad, I'll go work or stay at home or be a stay-home mom. And so the scholarship gives them wraparound support so that they can get a stipend, so that they don't have to feel like they have to work. They can focus on their studies, graduate, and get on with life. So that's the idea again, to grow the number of women in academia.
Hello, everyone. We are back with Professor Mamokgethi Phakeng. We had to stop the recording yesterday because of some technical issues. Prof, thanks for the time again today. Just wanted to, continuing from our discussion yesterday, what do you think is currently the biggest challenge facing the South African education system? You spoke about your plans and your scholarship, but I don't think any of those plans would materialize in the short term or even midterm. So what are some of the what is one of the biggest challenges in the South African education system today?
I mean, for me, the biggest challenge is the gap between the rich and the poor, which manifests itself in terms of the 2 basic education schooling systems, the private and public schools. The poor students go to public schools, and students from wealthy backgrounds go to private schools. And you can see the gap between the 2, because the students in private schools do better than those in public schools in general, if you take the numbers all together. And the first time that the students sit side by side is when they get to university. because when they get to university, the public higher education system in South Africa is much more of quality than the private higher education system. And so the majority of students come to public higher education. So this gap is, the danger of this gap of the two systems in basic education is that you get a higher dropout in the 12 years of basic education from the public schools than you do from private schools. And so that dropout means that very few students then can complete matric and then go to university. And then at university, you see also the disadvantage of coming from a poor background. Because the disadvantage when you get to university is that you actually do not have the cultural capital and the social capital to succeed at university. Because at university, you don't only need the intellectual capital to succeed. You can have the grades, you can have whatever, but then you come to university, then you've got to know how to behave in a lecture. You learn that if you don't talk, you don't learn. If you don't ask your questions, actually you're left behind. You don't know that actually it's okay to say you don't know, to ask your friends, to, and all of that is the kind of capital that working class students don't have. They think they should know. They think that if they ask a question, it means they are not good enough. They think if they ask their friends or their classmates that they're not good enough. And so when they get to university, then you see working class students struggling to complete. So it is in my view, it is a class problem that goes on. And the class problem in South Africa is also a race problem. And therefore, it actually is not so helpful given our apartheid past, because our apartheid past was about race. And so it creates this ongoing racial polarization because of this. Even though the government didn't do it deliberately, it is happening deliberately in terms of private and public higher education, private and public schooling system. And then at university, when the Black students don't do well, it's as if it's the race that makes them not do well. It's not seen as it's the kind of capital that you need to succeed at university. And I think it's a challenge, not only educational, it's a challenge politically too, because that's what brings instability, because these are young people who become politically active at university. These are young people who feel that they're excluded, they're whatever. It doesn't matter how smart you are, how bright, how hard you have worked, because they work hard to get to university, and then suddenly all of that doesn't take them anywhere. So it's a huge risk.
So yeah, so from what you say, it's a class issue, and so obviously this is something that's going to take much longer than anybody anticipated, I'm sure. Are there any solutions in your mind as to how this can be addressed?
Yeah, I think at university, I think all of us have to come in, by the way, to solve the problem. At university level, universities are by definition, middle class entities. They're elite entities. Mm-hmm. And we operate, the middle class students find it very easy to come into university and Atlanta. So we as universities have to get ourselves ready to be able to teach working class students, to be able to house working class students. And this is not just about giving them extra lessons and whatever. It's about the kind of support that we give them when they're in residences. It's about the proactive support, it's about mental health. It's about, it's about what goes into the orientation program that makes them, introduces them to university. But it's also about ongoing support. What we're doing at UCT as we work at knowing how to support the working class students is to join the data that we have of a student on before the semester ends, how are they doing academically? Are they a client at a student wellness clinic? Are they a mental health issue? Do they have mental health issue? And not to get details, but to get a coding system that indicates what level are they? And then, do they have financial issues? Because when students are burdened with financial issues, they owe fees or they don't know who's going to pay their fees next semester, it can affect their mental health, then it can affect their academic performance. So there's a connection here. And then also they can become, they can start with self-harm. So we've been doing this work to see when is the period when students self-harm goes up, you know, what happens in that period? And we want to join the dots so that we can stop that, first stop the issue of self-harm, but also be able to support them academically so that they can succeed. Because if it happens at the end of the semester, what happens is that then they're told that they're academically excluded. It's too late. So we're doing it now before that it gets to that level.
But isn't it also too late to start at the start when they enter the university, especially when you mentioned the class issue that happens in the past? They have gone through all that and then coming to university. So shouldn't something be done at the beginning, at the basic education level, where these things need to be set right?
Absolutely. So we're doing several things. So last year, September, we launched the UCT Online High School. And one of the one of the big reasons why we launched the UCT Online High School is precisely to deal with this problem. And it was three reasons. First, there aren't enough schools, by the way, in South Africa, just buildings, okay? And every beginning of the year, in the big cities, there are students who can't be accommodated because there are no schools. And usually those are poor students, right? And so we can collaborate with government and be able to assist in that regard. And then secondly, even when students who are able to get into schools, the schools are overcrowded, right? The classrooms are overcrowded. So if a teacher has got 50 learners, 60, and I'm saying overcrowded in our context because I know that in some Asian countries, you know, the classes may be bigger, right? But in this case, it's important for students to get personal or at least interaction with the teacher. In a class where learners from working class backgrounds are 50, 55, 60 in a class, it is not possible for a teacher to perform miracles and be able to support them to learn. And so the online high school creates a possibility for those students to be accommodated. And then thirdly, there are many learners in our schools who move to the next level and the next grade and the next grade without having the requisite knowledge. You know, they are moved on. And in the online high school, we've come up with pedagogy, designing lessons from the ground up that actually take all of that into consideration. There's personal attention to students. They've got a coach. And then we've recruited high quality teachers in the country. Their lessons are recorded, they're online, but every day, if the student is registered with the school, then the student gets personal, face-to-face, not face-to-face, online teaching live, right? But the platform is available to everybody for free, okay? So teachers can get it, learners can get it, their parents can get it, and so they can get that a good teaching there. The other thing that we're doing in the online high school to foster social interaction and also get the students who might come from other backgrounds to interact with others. We've got social clubs students start connecting online, then they meet those who are in the same area, we connect them, they can connect physically, they make friends, and it's working great, right? And so that gives them an opportunity to engage. And you might be sitting there and thinking, okay, what happens to poor students though if they're online and they are in homes that are not conducive? We have signed an agreement with the South African Human Rights Commission, who work with students because education is a right in our country.
Sure.
And we have set up a micro school. So we're working with an NGO in KZN, and they mentoring them in the school. The students are registered for the online high school, but they come together in the same class. We got them laptops and everything, data. They sit, they work, because they're registered, they get the personal attention. They've got the mentor who's here with us. They don't have to be at home. And at a particular time, they get a break, and at a particular time, they can go home. So we trying the model of micro schools, and whilst we working, hoping that the legislation will open in the country to allow micro schools, because that will allow us to support students in rural areas like those. And we've tried it in one school here in the Cape Flats. Now we're trying it with the students in a rural area in KZN, working with a non-governmental organization that's working with them, but it's not a school, but they can use our school and that, because they can stay at home. So this, in our view, will go some way in terms of supporting. We've got other initiatives at UCT where we, the school improvement initiative, the school development initiative that we run with schools in the townships and rural areas, where we don't only work with teachers in the school. We also bring our students who are doing occupational therapy, who are doing psychology, who are to work with the students, because if you're in a poor area, you don't get those services. So we bring them in so that the students and learners in the school can get that access, and sort of also get introduced to the ones who are in the school improvement unit. We also bring them to campus before they finish high school, so that they get a sense of what does the university look like. They spend time here, we teach them on a Saturday, so that they are not intimidated by university. They get a sense of how does university work, and they are taught by some of our staff here. So there's several things that we can do. The online high school helps us to reach more. The school improvement initiative can only reach the schools here in the Cape Flats, the poor schools in the townships here in Cape Town. Mm-hmm. So we're doing our best. We can do more, but this is the best that we're doing.
It has to be a joint initiative by everybody. Well, being on the Shipping and Freight Resource show, I have to ask you something related to shipping. I get a sense that there's been a disconnect between the educational system and the shipping and freight industry, because there's not many people who are aware of what shipping and freight and logistics is all about. Many people around the world, in fact, and South Africa is no exception as well, don't know much about what we do. But is there any reason why you think there's not much of a focus at the university level even? I mean, there are logistics degrees and things like that, but I feel there's no practical action towards that in that area. Is there any views on that?
I think it's because it's such a specialized area. I mean, we have a postgraduate program in shipping law.
Mm-hmm.
But the students who do it, they will tell you it's not, if they do that program, they have to be in an area where that's needed. They can't go to Johannesburg. Or even if they do maritime law, shipping law, it's like that kind of stuff is not necessarily needed everywhere, even though it serves everyone. People are not aware of the importance of shipping in their lives, because a lot of goods come that way and so on. But many people are not aware. And I think as universities, we don't necessarily have big programs in these areas.
Yeah.
Because it's not. It's something that not all of us think we need every day.
Yeah, but without the industry, yeah, nothing will move. But that's the
exactly.
But I guess that's a discussion for another day. My last question on this, in this Women's Month of August, every year we celebrate in South Africa. What is your one important message for women and young girls?
You know, my message would be perhaps 3 things briefly. You know, own who you are. Own who you are. You're not going to be someone else simply because you don't like who you are. So own who you are. Secondly, work hard. You know, work hard. Make yourself indispensable through your work. You know, it doesn't matter how hard it is, just work hard. And finally, stay the course. Stay the course. It's not going to be easy. It's not easy to be a woman in leadership. It's not easy being a woman in science. And I'm sure it's not easy being a woman in shipping and freight service. It's not easy at all. But we can only win as women if those of us who are there can stay the course. So stay the course.
Very well said, Prof. And once again, thank you for your time and the inspiration that you bring to countless students around the country and a lot around the world. And congratulations on your doctorship at University of Ottawa, I think it was. And
it was. Thank
yeah,
you very
much. And thank you for all the work that you're doing, and wish you all the best.
Thank you very much, Harish. Thank you so much.